You walk in through the automatic doors and the first thing that happens isn't shopping. It's verification. There's a young employee in a red vest standing at the entrance with a small handheld scanner, and before you can go any further, you're holding your card up like you're boarding a flight. Beep, green light. You're cleared to enter the building you've been paying to enter for the last 15 years. You don't think much of it. Nobody around you does either. A woman ahead of you fishes her card out of a lanyard around her neck. A guy behind you has his loaded onto his phone. Everyone moves through the ritual like it's always been there. It hasn't. This scanner showed up in 2024, and once you notice it, you start noticing other things too. The card gets checked again at self-checkout. Then a receipt checker at the exit draws a yellow highlighter line across the paper you were just handed 30 seconds ago. 3 verifications in one trip. Same person, same card, same store. Something is shifting at Costco. Not loudly, not in a way that makes the evening news. It's showing up in small moments. A carton limit that shouldn't exist. A muffin pack that got smaller and then somehow got more expensive. A tequila bottle you've trusted for a decade. That's now the subject of a lawsuit. A tariff you paid at the register that the Supreme Court just called unlawful. And here's what's strange. Most members can feel that something is off. They just don't have the words for it yet. Today we're going to find those words. Let me take you inside a warehouse in suburban Ohio on a Tuesday afternoon in March. A retired mechanic named Frank is pushing a flatbed cart down the center aisle. He's not looking for anything specific. He never is. That's the whole point of coming here. His wife is at home, he's got 2 hours to kill, and Costco has been his ritual for 22 years. He turns down the aisle where the coffee usually is. It's not there. The coffee is now 2 aisles over, next to a display of leaf blowers. He stands there for a second. He doesn't say anything. He just turns the cart around. This has happened to him 3 times in the last month. He mentioned it to his son over dinner last week, and his son laughed and said, "Dad, they do that on purpose. It's called the treasure hunt." Frank didn't laugh. He said, "I'm 71. I don't want a treasure hunt. I want coffee." That word, treasure hunt, is not Frank's word. It's Costco's word. It's in their investor decks. It's in interviews with their executives. The layout of a Costco warehouse is engineered deliberately to disorient you just enough that you walk past things you didn't plan to buy. The rotating merchandise, the sudden appearance of a kayak next to the yogurt, the seasonal aisle that swallows a third of the store in October and is gone by January. This isn't accidental. It's a documented strategy. And for most of Costco's history, members loved it. It felt like adventure. It felt like discovery. It felt like getting a deal on something you didn't know existed. But somewhere in the last 2 years, for a lot of members, the feeling curdled. The Better Business Bureau has logged more than 1,500 complaints against Costco in the past 3 years, and a striking number of them are not about pricing or product quality. They're about the layout. They're about not being able to find things. They're about older members who describe their trips, verbatim, as field trips. One woman in Arizona wrote that she'd started making a spreadsheet of aisle numbers each visit because by the next visit, half of them had moved. You've probably felt this. Have you noticed your trips getting longer? Not because you're buying more, because you're looking longer. Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how long your average Costco run takes now versus 5 years ago. Now let's talk about what happened at the register in February 2025. The Trump administration invoked something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and a wave of tariffs came down on imported goods. Costco, like every other big box retailer, had to figure out what to do with the additional cost. Some retailers ate it, some passed it on. Costco did the second thing. On earnings calls, CEO Ron Vachris said it plainly. "We did increase some price there because we felt that was something the member would be able to absorb." Members did absorb it, all year. Item by item, receipt by receipt, quietly folded into the bottom line of every trip. You paid it on avocados, you paid it on olive oil, you paid it on the electronics you couldn't find because they'd been moved. And then on February 20th, 2026, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that those IEEPA tariffs had been unlawful from the start. Sit with that for a second. The tariffs weren't just controversial. They weren't just poorly designed. The country's highest court said they should never have been collected. And here's where it turns from a policy story into a Costco story. Because now Costco is eligible to receive back a staggering amount of money from the federal government. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Some estimates put it over $1 billion, money that came out of member wallets, one $8.99 markup at a time, over the course of a full year. And when Vachris was asked what would happen with those refunds, his answer was not, "We'll return them to the members who paid them." His answer was that the refunds would be used to give customers lower prices and better value in the future. Read that again, in the future. Not to the grandmother in San Diego who spent an extra $340 last year and can point to the receipts. Not to the teacher in Cleveland who noticed her weekly grocery bill jump by 12% and adjusted accordingly. To future customers, some of whom aren't even members yet. Members did notice. In March 2026, 7 of them from Washington, Ohio, California, and Pennsylvania filed a class action. In April, an Illinois class action followed. In May, Costco filed papers urging the court to reject the claims. The proposed class covers anyone who bought a tariffed good between February 1st, 2025 and February 24th, 2026. That is, functionally, most people you know who shop at Costco. That is, functionally, you. There's a joke spreading through comment sections and Reddit threads that captures something real about this. Members are calling it the Costco refund program in reverse. You paid extra. The government owes Costco. Costco keeps it. You get maybe a slightly better deal on a rotisserie chicken you were already going to buy. The chicken is already $4.99. It's been $4.99 since the 1990s. What does better value in the future even mean when the anchor prices haven't moved in 3 decades? The math doesn't land. It's not supposed to. It's a phrase built to end a paragraph, not to change a policy. Now, here's the part that makes it sting in a specific way. Costco has always been the retailer members trusted more than the others. Not just liked, trusted. There's a difference. When Walmart raised prices, people rolled their eyes and shopped anyway. When Target had a bad quarter, nobody felt personally wounded. But Costco was different because Costco sold itself as different. The membership fee was framed as a covenant. You pay us this flat amount every year, and in exchange, we won't nickel and dime you. We'll pass the savings along. We're on the same team. And for a long time that felt true. It might still be true in a lot of ways, but the tariff story is the first time in recent memory that a large group of members have felt like they were on the wrong side of that covenant. Let me take you to a Kirkland Signature aisle in a warehouse in Fort Lauderdale. A woman named Denise is holding a bottle of Kirkland Signature silver tequila in her hand. She's throwing a party for her daughter's engagement in a few weeks, and she's done this before. She always buys this bottle. She's a nurse. She works 12-hour shifts. She doesn't want to think about tequila. She wants to buy tequila. And on the front of the bottle, in a font designed to look artisanal, it says 100% Blue Weber agave. She reads that. She puts it in her cart. She keeps shopping. Denise doesn't know yet that in October 2025, a class action lawsuit was filed in Florida, alleging that the Kirkland Signature tequila she just placed in her cart is not in fact 100% Blue Weber agave. According to the complaint, nuclear magnetic resonance testing and isotope testing on samples showed significant amounts of non-agave sugars, not trace contamination. Significant. The lawsuit further alleges that some of the tested samples might not even qualify as mixed to under Mexico's tequila regulatory framework, which sets the floor at 51% agave. In other words, the accusation isn't just that the label is misleading. The accusation is that the liquid inside might not legally count as tequila at all. The supplier named in the lawsuit is Santa Lucia Corporate Distillery of Mexico. In April 2026, Costco filed a motion to dismiss. The case is ongoing. Denise reads about the lawsuit 2 days later on Facebook. She goes back to her kitchen counter. She picks up the bottle. She stares at the label, and then she does something she hasn't done in her entire 20-year relationship with Costco. She Googles the phrase, "How do you fake tequila?" Kirkland Signature is not just a private label, it is the single most important asset Costco owns. Roughly 30 to 33% of Costco's total revenue comes from Kirkland-branded products. In fiscal 2025 alone, Kirkland sales were somewhere between $86 and $90 billion. If Kirkland Signature broke off tomorrow and became its own company, it would immediately be one of the top 10 consumer brands on the planet. Bigger than most companies you can name, and the entire mythology of Kirkland is built on one word: trust. The bet the member makes is that whatever's on that shelf is at least as good as the name brand, usually better, and always cheaper. Toilet paper, vitamins, coffee, vodka, nuts, diapers, trash bags, olive oil, peanut butter. You buy Kirkland because you've decided at some deep level that Costco wouldn't put its name on something that wasn't real. The tequila lawsuit doesn't just threaten one product, it threatens the frame. You might be thinking, one lawsuit doesn't prove anything. Fair. Lawsuits get filed. Some get dismissed. Some get settled. But if you're a Costco member reading about this at your kitchen table on a Sunday morning, the lawsuit isn't the point. The moment of doubt is the point. Because once you've had that moment, once you've flipped a Kirkland bottle over and squinted at the ingredients and thought, wait, is this actually what it says? You don't go back to buying it unconsciously. The unconscious purchase was the whole thing. That's what Costco was selling. That's what a $90 billion house of trust is built on. And it takes exactly one lawsuit, one viral thread, one anxious Sunday morning to start pulling at a thread. Here's a wait what fact you can drop at a dinner party. For years, until 2017, you could buy a Kirkland Signature casket on Costco.com. An actual funeral casket. Metal, lined, ready to be shipped to the funeral home of your choice. They were priced hundreds of dollars below funeral home rates. Costco quietly discontinued them in 2017. Almost nobody remembers. It's the kind of detail that makes you realize how deeply the Kirkland brand had extended and how audacious the whole project was. From cradle to grave, literally, diapers on one end, caskets on the other. That's how far the trust went. Let me take you to a Costco pharmacy in Reno on a Wednesday morning. There's a man in his late 40s named Marcus, standing at the counter. He's picking up a prescription for semaglutide. In October 2025, Novo Nordisk struck a deal to sell its GLP-1 medications through Costco pharmacies at $499 a month for a 4-week supply for uninsured members, roughly half the cash price everywhere else. Marcus doesn't have insurance for it. He's paying out of pocket. He gets the pen, he pays, he thanks the pharmacist. He turns around and starts walking through the store to get to the exit, because that's how Costco is designed. The pharmacy is deep inside. To leave, you have to walk past everything. And here's where it gets interesting. Marcus, on this drug, doesn't want the Kirkland cheese bagels anymore. He doesn't want the 4-pound bag of trail mix. He doesn't want the giant tub of Sour Patch Kids. He walks past all of it. His appetite has been chemically muted. Studies on GLP-1 users show measurable declines in snack food purchases, salty items, processed carbs, alcohol, the exact categories that fill Costco carts. So here's the paradox. Costco is now selling in the same building both the drug that shrinks the shopping cart and the impulse items that used to fill it. The pharmacist and the food court are working against each other. Costco knows this. And Costco is doing it anyway because the pharmacy is a foot in the door for a demographic they want. It's a bet that the members you keep by giving them cheaper Ozempic are more valuable long-term than the snack cart sales you lose from the same members. That might be right. It might not be. Nobody knows yet. But watch what happens to the food-adjacent sections of Costco warehouses over the next 3 years. If GLP-1 usage keeps climbing, the treasure hunt might start looking different. Fewer chip aisles, more home goods, more electronics, more stuff you buy with your eyes instead of your stomach. Marcus, by the way, laughs about this. He told his sister on the phone that night, "I just paid $500 to walk past a hot dog for $1.50 and not want it." He thought it was funny. He also thought it was, in his word, weird. Have you noticed changes in your own cart? What stopped ending up in there that used to? I'm genuinely curious what's dropped off your regular list in the last year. Now let's talk about the eggs. This one is a memory more than a current crisis, but the memory is important because it's the first crack in the story that Costco tells about itself. In 2024, the H5N1 avian flu outbreak hit U.S. laying flocks hard. Millions of birds were culled. Egg supply cratered. Egg prices, in many regions, went up more than 150%. And at Costco, something happened that had not happened in most members' living memory. Signs went up limiting purchases, 1 carton per member. Not on some obscure niche item. On eggs. For a lot of members, that sign was more disorienting than the prices. Costco is not the store where you can't get things. Costco is the store where the thing is not just available, but available in a warehouse club size and stacked 12 pallets high. The whole premise of the place is abundance without ceremony. You walk in, the ceiling is 30 feet up, everything you could possibly need is in industrial quantities, and you leave with a trunk full. That was the contract. That sign, 1 per member, was a small violation of the contract. It was a hint that abundance had a limit. The signs came down as supply recovered, but the memory didn't. Talk to a Costco member about eggs today and you'll get a shrug, but a specific kind of shrug. The kind of shrug you give when someone reminds you of a time your assumptions turned out to be wrong. Let me take you to a paper products aisle in a Costco in New Jersey. There's a woman named Priya, mid-30s, tech worker. First Costco run in about 6 weeks because she's been traveling for work. She's grabbing her usual bundle of Kirkland Signature premium paper towels. She notices, mostly because she's a habitual reader of packaging, that the sheet count on the roll has dropped. It used to say 160 sheets per roll. Now it says 140. Same price. Same size roll. More or less. Same product name. She frowns for about 4 seconds. Then she puts it in the cart anyway, because she needs paper towels and she's not going to a different store for it. That is the reaction Costco is counting on. That 4-second frown followed by a shrug, except in this case, they miscounted. Enough members had that 4-second frown and then went home and posted about it, that a wave of backlash built online. Comment threads, Reddit posts, tweets. Members felt personally offended in a way they hadn't for the smaller shrinkflations they'd absorbed without much noise. And Costco reversed course. The 160-sheet roll came back. Members treated it like a small victory. It was sort of. It was also proof that the shrinkflation had been a test. A trial balloon to see how much they could get away with. And when the balloon popped, the roll got refilled. That is not the only test. The bakery muffins used to come in a 12-pack for $9.99. They shrank to an 8-pack for $6.99. Then in December 2024, the 8-pack got a 58% price hike. In a matter of months, the same visit with coffee muffin that had been a Costco small pleasure became noticeably worse value in 2 directions at once. Fewer muffins per pack, much more per pack. Kirkland organic salsa went from 38 ounces to 35. Crest 3D White Advanced Toothpaste went from 6 ounces to 5.2. Dixie Ultra Plates went from 285 count to 240. Scotch Shop Towels went from 43.6 square feet to 39.5. Kirkland frozen blueberries shrank without a price change. None of these are catastrophic on their own. 2 ounces here, 45 plates there. And that is precisely the design. You're not supposed to feel any single one of them. You're supposed to absorb them. But your brain keeps a running total whether you consciously notice or not. And after enough 4-second frowns, something changes in how a store feels. It stops feeling like a warehouse of abundance. It starts feeling like a system that's watching you. Watching to see how much less it can give you before you say something. Let me take you now to a Costco self-checkout at 6:40 on a Thursday evening. There's a line of about 11 people, 12 machines, 2 employees supervising all of them. One of the employees has a lanyard so heavy with keys and cards and scanners that it looks like a piece of security theater. The other is helping a customer who can't get the machine to recognize a case of paper towels. The paper towels have been scanned 3 times. The machine keeps saying unexpected item in bagging area, which is bizarre because there is no bagging area at Costco. There has never been a bagging area at Costco. That is one of the core premises of the store. You put your stuff on the belt, they put it back in the cart, you go, and now here you are at a machine, being scolded by a robot for a bagging area that doesn't exist. There's a joke spreading through Costco comment sections that captures something real about this. Members are calling themselves unpaid inventory associates. You scan the products, you lift the 40-pound case, you navigate the touchscreen, you resolve the errors, and at the end of it, you get charged the same price you would have paid if a human being had done all of that for you. The labor cost savings do not flow back to you, they flow back to Costco. Costco's net income last fiscal year was over $7 billion. The savings from self-checkout are real. The distribution of those savings is one-sided. And this isn't a criticism of the machines. Machines are neutral. That's not the argument being made here. The argument is that a store which used to define itself by the humanness of the experience, the friendly cashier, the sample cart lady in the hairnet, the receipt checker who chatted about your kids, has been moving, one aisle at a time, toward a model where the human is the customer and the machine is the store. Costco isn't the worst offender in this shift. Walmart has gone further. Kroger has gone further. But Costco was supposed to be different. That was the whole point of paying a membership fee. That was what the fee was purchasing. Not just access to bulk, access to a version of retail that hadn't been optimized down to the last labor unit. Let me take you outside the warehouse to a parking lot in Tulsa. A woman named Tanya is loading a case of water into the back of her Kia. She's 28. She just paid $65 to renew her Gold Star membership. It used to be $60. That's not a lot of money. She'd tell you that herself. But she'd also tell you that she noticed, because Costco raised the fee in September 2024 for the first time in 7 years. Gold Star went from $60 to $65, an 8% jump. Executive went from $120 to $130. Roughly 52 million memberships were affected. The executive tier got a small sweetener. The 2% cashback cap went from $1,000 to $1,250. But for Tanya, at Gold Star, there was no sweetener. Just $5 more. And this is where the two-tier problem gets interesting. Because in June 2025, Costco made a series of moves that widened the gap between Gold Star and Executive in ways that felt to a lot of Gold Star members pointed. Executive members now get an extra morning shopping hour before the warehouse opens to Gold Star. Executive members now get a $10 monthly Instacart credit on orders over $150. The credit doesn't roll over. If you don't use it, you lose it. On paper, these are small perks. In practice, they are the beginning of something. They are the beginning of a store where the tier of membership you can afford determines the tier of experience you get. Tanya has thought about upgrading. She's done the math. If she spent more than $500 a month at Costco, the 2% cashback would pay for the upgrade. She spends about $280 a month, so it doesn't. And she's aware, in a low-grade constant way, that every time she comes to the warehouse now, there's a class of member above her getting there earlier, getting perks she doesn't, and being cultivated by the store in a way she is not. She still shops there. She still likes it. She'd tell you that too. But she can feel the tier gap widening. Have you upgraded to executive in the last 2 years? Or thought about it and decided not to? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what tipped you one way or the other. Let me take you to a Costco food court in Chicago in May of 2025. There's a display of a new menu item, combo calzone. Priced attractively. Members are curious. A few people order it. Reviews online are, in the polite phrasing, mixed. Some love it, some don't. And then about 2 months later, without announcement, the calzone is gone. Replaced with chicken strips. No press release. No obituary. No note on the menu board explaining what happened. Just a quiet substitution. You might not care about a calzone. Fair. But here's what the calzone story tells you. Even the food court is now being tested. The food court of all places. The one section of a Costco warehouse that has for decades functioned as a kind of sanctuary. The one place where the prices are absurdly low, the food is generous, the seats are metal and cold and welcoming, and the entire experience feels untouched by whatever spreadsheet logic is remaking the rest of the store. The hot dog and soda combo is still $1.50. It's been $1.50 since 1985. The rotisserie chicken is still $4.99. It has been since the 1990s. Costco sold 245 million hot dog combos in fiscal 2025. They sold 157.4 million rotisserie chickens. They lose money on the chicken. They keep the price anyway. Because those two items are what the CEO would probably call, if he were being honest, the brand identity anchors. The CEO said publicly, and this is a real quote, "The hot dog price will not change as long as I'm around. The chicken and the hot dog are decoys. That's not a knock on them. That's not the argument being made here. They're beautiful decoys. Members love them. They're the reason a lot of members joined and the reason a lot of members stayed. They're also functionally the emotional anchor that lets you not notice everything else that's moved. When the muffin pack shrinks by 4 and then goes up 58%, but the rotisserie chicken is still $4.99, your brain files the visit under still a good deal. That's the trick. And it's a legitimate trick, one that's kept Costco loved through a period when nearly every other retailer has become resented. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. The calzone getting yanked was the food court's first small betrayal. It was a signal that even the sanctuary is on the spreadsheet. That the food court, too, has a P&L now. And if the calzone can vanish quietly in 2 months, so can other things. Members joke about this. There's a running gag on Reddit about which food court item will be the next to disappear. Some say the churro. Some say the pizza slice will get smaller. Some say the polished dog, which already got taken off the menu once in 2018, is one board meeting away from another farewell. Nobody actually thinks the hot dog is going anywhere, because the CEO said it isn't. But now that they've watched a calzone die, they've started to wonder how many things they took for permanent were actually just paused. Let me take you to the exit. It's 7:15 on a Sunday evening. There's a line of maybe 14 people waiting to have their receipts checked. A man named Julian, 23, part-time coder, is at the front. He's got a case of sparkling water and a bag of frozen dumplings. Total of about $34. The receipt checker draws a yellow line across his paper. Julian is holding his phone in his other hand because he was scrolling. He looks at the receipt checker. He looks at his cart. 2 items. Sparkling water. Dumplings. He looks back at the receipt checker, and he laughs. Not meanly, just at the whole scene. The 3 verifications for the 2 items. The line behind him. The elaborate ceremony of proving he hadn't stolen a bag of frozen dumplings from the store he pays $65 a year to shop at. He says, "This is the funniest thing I've done all week." The receipt checker laughs too. She sees it. She works the line every Sunday, she knows. The receipt check at the exit is not new, but its meaning is different now. When it was the only verification, it was quirky. It was Costco being Costco. It was part of the deal. Now that it's the third verification in a single trip, stacked on top of the door scanner and the self-checkout card check, it has a different texture. It has started to feel less like a quirk and more like a system that has become uncertain about its own members, which is a strange thing for a membership store to become uncertain about. You've already been vetted. You've already been billed. You've already agreed to the terms. The store already knows who you are before you walk in, but it still needs to verify you 3 times. Ask any Costco employee off the record, and they'll tell you the door scanner didn't come in because members were sneaking in. It came in because non-members were slipping through with a friend's card. That's real. That's a real business problem. But solving it by turning every entrance into a checkpoint means every legitimate member also becomes, briefly, a suspect. 3 times per trip. Julian's laugh, by the way, is the most valuable thing in this whole story. Not because it was funny, because it was recognition. He saw the pattern. He named it, with his laugh, and he moved on. He's not going to cancel his membership. He needs the dumplings. He'll be back next Sunday. But the recognition has entered the room, and it doesn't leave. It sits in the corner of every future visit, whispering, "Now let me take you to a completely different kind of scene." There's a Costco employee, we'll call her Rosa, on her lunch break in the break room. She's been at Costco for 11 years. She stocks the household aisle. She's proud of the job. Costco pay and benefits, as she'd tell you, are still meaningfully better than what she'd get at almost any other big box retailer. Costco is one of the few large American companies where a warehouse floor job comes with real health insurance, real retirement contribution, and a real ladder to move up. That's true. That's still true. And it matters. But Rosa has noticed something in the last 2 years. Corporate has started asking her department to reset the aisle more often. She used to reset her section once every few weeks. Now it's every week, sometimes twice. Members come up to her, confused, asking where the toilet paper went. She has to explain again that it moved. She used to like the resets because it gave the store energy. Now she's tired of them. She thinks the members are tired of them too. She won't say any of this on record. She likes her job. She likes the people she works with. But if you talk to her long enough, she'll tell you that a store that used to feel like a family has started to feel, in her word, twitchy. Corporate is optimizing. She can feel it in the way her tasks have accelerated. She can feel it in the way members ask her questions. She can feel it in the way the receipt line moves faster than it used to, because the checker is under more pressure to keep it moving. She'd tell you the store is still good. She'd tell you it's still the best warehouse job in America. And she'd also tell you that twitchy is the right word for what's happened. The Rosa story matters because the employee experience and the member experience are the same experience, just seen from opposite sides of the sample cart. When the store feels twitchy to work in, it feels twitchy to shop in. When corporate accelerates the resets, members lose the muscle memory of where their stuff is. When corporate widens the tier gap, members feel it in the parking lot at 9 a.m. as executive members roll in an hour early. When corporate holds on to the tariff refunds, members hear future customers and start doing quiet math about whether they're one of those. Have you talked to a Costco employee about any of this? Have they been more candid than usual? I'm genuinely curious what you've heard. Let me take you back to Frank in Ohio, the retired mechanic pushing his flatbed cart. He finds the coffee eventually. It's in an aisle that wasn't there last month. Or maybe it was, and it's just in a different position. He can't tell anymore. He puts 2 bags of Kirkland Signature whole bean into the cart. He looks at the price. It's higher than he remembers. He shrugs. He keeps pushing. On his way to the register, he passes the tequila display. He passes the paper towels with the sheet count that got restored. He passes the pharmacy where 3 people are waiting for GLP-1 prescriptions. He passes the muffin display where the price sticker looks bigger than the muffins. He doesn't stop at any of them. He's got coffee. That's what he came for. He gets in line. He waits. He pays. He walks toward the door. Card check. Green light. He walks toward the exit. Yellow line drawn across his receipt. He walks to his truck. Sitting in the truck before he starts the engine, Frank does something small and specific. He looks at the receipt. He notices the total. He notices that he only bought coffee, and he thinks, but doesn't say out loud, that it took him 40 minutes to buy coffee. That's it. No epiphany, no conclusion. He just puts the truck in reverse and drives home. That's how most of this happens. Not in a moment of realization. In an accumulation. In a slow, drip-by-drip recognition that spans months, and shows up not in a big feeling but in a small one. in the 4-second frown, in the 20-second pause in an aisle that changed, in the 40 minutes it took to buy the one thing. And this is the honest heart of the story. Costco is not falling apart. Costco is not being destroyed. Costco just posted historic revenues. Its membership renewal rate is still above 90%. It is, by nearly every measurable metric, one of the most successful retailers in human history. The company will be fine. That is not the argument being made here. The argument is that the emotional contract members had with Costco, the thing that made it feel different from Walmart and Target and Sam's Club, has thinned, not shattered. Thinned. And thinning is a slower kind of story than shattering. It doesn't make the evening news. It shows up in the 4-second frown. It shows up in the joke about being unpaid inventory associates. It shows up in the quiet math members are now doing about tariff refunds they'll never see. It shows up in the tequila bottle sitting on the counter with a suspicious label. It shows up in Frank driving home after 40 minutes of coffee. The story of retail in America has been the story of a slow erosion of trust between the store and the customer. Every retailer is on this arc. Walmart is further along. Amazon is on a different curve but the same trajectory. Kroger is deep in it. Target is watching it happen in real time. Costco was for a long time the exception that proved the rule. The one big box retailer that seemed to have made a genuine bet on treating members like partners rather than marks. That bet is still partially intact. The rotisserie chicken is still $4.99. The hot dog is still $1.50. The bones of the covenant are still there, but the connective tissue is fraying, and most members can feel it before they can name it. There is one more thing you should know before we close. This is the small detail that pulls it all together in a way I didn't expect when I started digging. When you renew your Costco membership now, whether Gold Star or Executive, the renewal reminder emails have started to lead with the phrase, "Your membership is worth more than ever." Read that phrase carefully. It doesn't say your membership costs less than ever. It doesn't say you're getting more for less. It says worth more, which is a phrase you use when you're trying to convince someone of value in a moment when the price has gone up. It's the phrase of a store that has raised its fee, held on to its tariff refunds, tested how small it can make a muffin pack, and is now, in its outbound communications, gently working to remind you that all of this adds up to something worth the check you just wrote. Maybe it does. Maybe for you it still does. That's a personal calculation. Nobody outside of your own kitchen table can make it for you. But now, having walked through it all together, you have the words. The scanner at the door. The card check at self-checkout. The receipt line at the exit. The tariff at the register that was never legal. The lawsuit hanging over the tequila. The GLP-1 prescription that walks past the hot dog. The eggs that were rationed for the first time in memory. The muffin pack that shrank and then jumped 58%. The paper towel that fought back. The executive tier that gets in an hour earlier. The Instacart credit that doesn't roll over. The calzone that quietly disappeared. The chicken that hasn't moved in 30 years and never will, because moving it would be the end of the mythology, and even the spreadsheets know that. The caskets you could once buy from Kirkland Signature but can't anymore, though nobody talks about it. The renewal email that swears your membership is worth more than ever. The 40 minutes to buy coffee. The 4-second frown. The laugh at the receipt checker. The shrug. The shrug. The shrug. So here is my question for you, and I want you to be specific, because generic answers won't help either of us understand what's actually shifting. When was the exact moment, in the last 2 years, that you first felt Costco was different? Not prices are up, everybody feels that. I want the moment. The aisle you turned down and something had moved. The receipt you looked at in the parking lot. The sign that said 1 carton per member. The employee who looked tired in a way you hadn't seen before. The muffin. The tequila. The scanner. Which specific moment tipped you from feeling like a member to feeling like a customer? Drop it in the comments. I want to know which one you felt most, because that's how a covenant thins, not in a policy announcement. In a single moment, in a single aisle, on a single Tuesday, when you looked around and realized you'd been paying attention to the wrong thing the whole time,